it would be good to know if there are things that are puzzling you. There must be things that are puzzling you.
Sorry, Gil, I just have one question.
Excellent.
So technically, the assessment 2 is basically us filling up, like that performer, that lesson plan. So it's basically us filling up that. That's
that is what you will be doing.
Okay.
And in the middle of that, there's a cover page, and then there's room for the rationale, which is the essay part of your assignment.
Okay, in the essay, like what you said before, we need to it's basically like assessment 1, but like summarize. How much do you think for like
it's the same sort of structure, isn't it? Part the essay and part showing what you would be doing via filling in the form.
How many like 1,000 words would be appropriate?
Well, if it's MTeach, you've got 3,000 words altogether.
Yeah.
So probably you'll use the essay will be much longer this time. So probably I'd say half and half. You might be writing 1,500 words, 1,000 to 1,500 words in the rationale part.
Okay.
Because you've got to get into some detail.
Yeah.
And the 3 lesson overviews are not going to take you a huge amount of words, but the significant amount of words.
Okay. Sorry, just one more question.
I don't apologize for asking questions.
In terms of the text that we have to use, in all honesty, like I like my local library's got like shut down because of what's going on. So if I order them online, they won't come till like maybe next week or week after. So I'm not too sure.
Can't you download them online? Almost immediately.
I'm sure buying them online. Yeah.
That's probably the cheapest thing to do.
Yeah, maybe I could do that.
I think in these troubled moments, I think the library at UTS may have some of them, and they will lend them to you. You just got to go and collect them at the door.
Yeah. Only thing is that like it's literally like an hour and a half.
Oh, right. Okay. So okay, I understand you don't want to do that. No. If you live somewhere near uni, that may be an option.
Yeah.
But if you don't, the cheapest thing to do is to simply download the text.
Okay. All right.
If you've got a local library.
Yeah, they're closed.
They're closed. They're not even leaving you things at the door.
I'm not too sure.
But you might be able to download them online for free from the local library.
I don't know if they'll have that, but like I'll check.
Well, I know that my local library, they do a lot of downloading. So it depends where you live. But
yeah.
If you're on the north side, Stanton Library has a huge download thing. But I don't know where you are. Are you on the south side, are you?
No, I'm in the west.
Out in the west. Well, God, there should be something at Parramatta.
Nope. I think the library's closed also.
Not even for downloads?
Oh, downloads? I wouldn't trust the Parramatta Library for downloads.
Well, but do you know that? Have you asked them?
Oh no, there's one. No, it's one way to find out. But yeah, probably the downloads still work.
Yeah, I would think so, because they certainly work in my local libraries. If you want to download. So, but if there's a real issue and you can't get hold of the book you want, or you can't get hold of the number of books you want, let me know, because I can broaden the text list a bit. But I'm trying to focus everybody on really new stuff, which is why I've restricted that list and given you stuff that's been published only in the last couple of years, or 3 years at the very most. So yes, so that could be an issue. So let me know if you're really having a problem.
Gil, you know how you said if you've done a picture book for assessment task 1, you can't 2. What about graphic novel to picture book? Is that okay?
Yeah, as long as it's significant. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have just had a quick look and I saw Cicada and I've been meaning to read it, so I thought it could be interesting to look at, but I did Mouse for A1.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. You've done Mouse and now, yeah. Well, look, have a look. Under the circumstances, it might be the one that you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
So that's okay. I'm not too fussed. Under the circumstances, I'm not too fussed about anything. Okay. Anybody else? Question about anything, particularly about the structure of this, what you understand or don't understand about the assessment, etc. I can't believe it's all clear. Yes, Lujane.
Just wanted to ask, in regards to the essay part, what's like the main aspect that you want us to kind of discuss? You know, like what's the main aspect that you'd like?
Okay, well, you've got to say a bit more about the text that you're using.
Yeah.
And you've got to justify that for a comprehensive class.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to suggest and also justify perhaps 1 or 2 of your related texts that you're going to put in.
Yeah.
And how they might be used.
Okay.
You're going to be talking about what you want the students to learn from the whole unit, where the focus is for the whole unit. Before you just had a lesson, you just had one lesson. So you might have had, one main aim for that lesson. The students are going to understand what's in an introduction, or the students are going to understand what's in the structure of a story, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in this, you've got a much bigger aim because you're teaching maybe a 4 to 5 to 6 week unit. So what do you want to achieve at the end of it will link into the assessment task. Why is that important? Remember those questions. What do I want them to learn? How are they going to get there? And why is it important?
Yeah.
So you've got that to discuss. And I want to see much more research this time. I want to see that you have actually looked at assessment, research into assessment, for instance, and what are the most effective things. And you can talk a little bit about the strategies, but this is more about the text, why you've chosen it, why it's important, and what you want the students to learn from studying it. Okay. Because you're only going to give me the skeleton of 3 lessons, 3 opening lessons. So that means that you can't demonstrate in your unit all the stuff that's going to happen. So you've got to give me a good overview at the beginning, and then your first 3 skeleton lessons should show how you're going to progress into that and get to your final assessment task.
Okay, awesome.
And is that okay? Does that make it clearer?
Yep. Yeah. And for the word count, if we go a little bit above 1,500 for the essay.
Yeah, I'd say that your essay is going to be much longer this time. It'll be probably half the amount of words you've got.
Yeah, okay.
And if you're M-Teach, so you've got quite a lot of room there. The Bachelor of Eds won't have quite as much leeway, but they'll be writing a bit more.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, is that all right?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else got any sort of questions related to anything around that?
I had a question looking at the pro forma in the assessment section.
Yes.
What is the difference between the focus questions and what was the other bit? The focus questions and the nature of the task.
Oh, well, the focus questions are big questions. They're wide questions. The task itself, the assessment task, is going to be very zeroed in on one particular thing, I would think. One of the things in education, and if you look at the quality teaching document, it's asking the kids big questions and getting them to try to relate different texts or learn about those big questions through a variety of texts. And so that's really the most important part of learning. Assessment can only ever test a little bit. It's like the HSC. They have all of this learning, and then they get to the HSC and there's a question on one aspect of a novel. But it's really the most important things are the bigger questions that have been asked all the way through their 13 years of education.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So the assessment task is narrowing down into one particular thing. You can't ask kids everything in an assessment task. You've got to be reasonable. And that's another important thing about assessment tasks. They have to be doable. You know, the logistics of them has to be considered. For instance, sometimes students come up with, they're all going to give a talk on the book. Okay, well, that's fine, but do you want to listen to 30 talks on one book? No, you don't, because they all start talking about what the person talked about yesterday, and it takes you about 6 lessons to get through 30 kids and doing their talks, and by the end, you're an absolute heap of despair. So, you know, if you want them to do a spoken assessment, then you've got to think of some clever way of them to do it so that A, they don't all copy from each other, and B, it doesn't drive you insane. And it's you know, logistically possible. So you've got to think about logistics in assessment tasks. That's why most schools, unfortunately, just fall back on getting the kids to write an essay. And getting them to write an essay sometimes is absolutely fine, but it's not always the answer, particularly in junior years where you want them to do more interesting tasks. You want them to think outside the box a bit. Essays are for exams, really, which is not to say that sometimes an essay isn't the best thing for them to be writing. Okay, anything else? All right. Okay, we are going to do one more task in groups. Now, this time, there is another document which is on week 7 prep. It's the one we haven't looked at yet. It's called Assessment Scenarios. You all need it. I'm going to put you into groups of 3, which means that there'll be one group of 2, but that's all right. And I'm going to get half of you to do one of those tasks on that document and the other people to do the second one. So first of all, I'll put you in groups and then I'll visit you one by one and tell you which task you're doing. All right? And it's all written on the piece of paper, so it should be reasonably clear. So you're going to, as a group, nut out an assessment task for the scenario that you're going to be given. Okay, everybody ready? Ta-da, here we go. Recreate. 3. Okay, everybody's coming back bit by bit. All right. Are we all back? I forgot to remind some of you to have a spokesperson. So when it comes to your turn to report, you might have to have a quick conversation and decide who that's going to be. Now, groups 1, 3, and 5 were doing the first one, which was on stage 4, and groups 2 and 4 were doing the second one, which was a stage 5 task. I think that's right. So let's deal with the stage 4 task first. And groups 1, 3, and 5. Does anyone want to kick off? You'll need to be unmuted. You'll need to be able to, everyone can hear you. So make sure you've got your settings right.
I don't mind going first for group 3.
You don't want to go first?
No, I don't mind going first.
You don't mind going first. Okay. Sorry. I don't want to go first. Okay. So group 3, off you go.
Okay, so we chose 3 different syllabus points. It was, so we were doing stage 4. We had outcome 2, 4, and 7. I can read them to you if you want, but I figured it's not.
You don't have to read them to me. I'm just looking them up on my thing. 2,
Okay.
4, and 7. Hold on. You're stage 4, aren't you?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm looking. Yeah, I've got it here. Okay, so you're 2, 4, and 7. Okay, so that sounds like processes. It sounds like language. And 7 is that creative one. Yep.
So our description of the task was you were to select 2 pieces of news which cover the same topic but have alternative views. One text must be multimodal while the other must be written. And then the question was to evaluate how the point of view of these texts might alter their interpretation, consider how biased perspectives could affect the text and its consumption, and think about how the medium for distribution might also affect the text.
Okay, that sounds like a perfectly good task to me. My only problem is that as it's stage 4, you might have to tone your language down a bit and make it a bit simpler.
I think you're going to say that even more based on the marking criteria then. But I did think that.
Yeah.
But it was hard to write, like, because we were looking at our own subject, like our own criteria, and it's hard. It's definitely not easy writing criteria.
It's not easy writing criteria. That's fantastic that you've worked that out, because that means that you'll be taking great care of it. So for stage 4, just remember they're little kids. They're 11, 12, and 13.
Yeah.
And so although, some of them might be as bright as buttons and have really good vocabulary, some won't. So you might have to think about toning that down.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a nice task.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought things like replacing, obviously, yeah, a lot of them won't know how to evaluate. So replacing the words. So our criteria. Oh, go on.
No, go.
Yeah, our criteria, we had appropriate and effective selection of texts.
Now, wait a minute. You will be assessed on how well you...
appropriately and effectively select your texts.
No, just what about how well you select your texts? You don't have to put appropriately and selectively.
Oh, right, okay.
It's how well you do such and such.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so how well you select your texts, how well you evaluate using evidence to support your ideas, how well you write clearly and scholarly, and let me try and convert this one.
Scholarly might need a bit of thought, but how well you write, full stop. How well you write. You don't have to say anything more to a year 7 or year 8 child than that. How well you write. And then they know, oh, Sir's going to get me into trouble if I don't spell well or something. So, just keep it as simple as possible. So the last one?
The last one was consider point of view and medium with consideration of meta language, which obviously meta language.
Just consider point of view of different people.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, okay. Yeah, good. Okay, that sounds great. All right, who else had the stage 4 task number group? You were group 3, weren't you?
We had it as well.
Okay, off you go.
We chose.
Are we allowed to see you?
I don't have a video thing, webcam.
I can't hear you very well, actually.
Hello? Hello?
Hello? Yeah, I can hear you, but you might have to speak up a bit.
Can you hear me?
Ah, can now. That's better.
Oh, sorry. I'm just figuring it out. We chose outcome 7, 8, and 9.
So 7 is the one about what?
Understands and evaluates ways text can represent personal and public worlds.
Yep. And 8 is the one about?
Identifies, considers, and appreciates cultural expression in text.
Okay. And 9 is the one about self-learning.
Yes.
Okay. Off you go.
So yeah, obviously we did find it a bit difficult to sort of come up with the task, especially we're just trying to figure out, what age they were, like how sort of, what they would actually be capable of doing. Basically, we just came up with the idea that we can divide the groups we can divide them into different groups where they choose a stakeholder within a global issue, like, you could give them examples as well. And then they basically have to argue for that side.
What sort of topics were you thinking that they would be interested in? These are little kids.
Yeah,
11,
that's
13.
yeah, I'm not sure. It's tough. We kind of were going local, then we said global. I don't know.
Thought maybe that, like, considering like the whole coronavirus epidemic right now.
Yeah, like
Oh, don't depress the poor little boys.
I don't think it's really depressing. I feel like they're really interested in it. Like, I feel like
Okay.
they
All
love
right.
they love the news. They love the hustle and bustle about what's going on and how it's obviously affecting them. And we thought that it would be something that's basically mainstream right now. And
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
so,
Okay.
yeah, basically.
If you think they want to talk about it, I don't.
we were talking about I guess so.
By the way, for kids of that age, what topics do you think, apart from the coronavirus, what topics do you
games.
think they really like?
Games, movies.
Games, yep.
Yeah, you could probably
Movies.
go. Sorry.
They love animals.
True.
They can get right off on cruelty to animals.
Doesn't sound so good.
Well, no, not being cruel to animals. But, they can get really interested in that. And you're right about the games. I think that would be another good one too. Yeah. But okay, this is the coronavirus. So tell me the task again.
So you'd get divided into groups where you need to pick a stakeholder within the whole context of, coronavirus. Obviously, you wouldn't, say it that way, but
how do you say it? How are you going to explain stakeholder?
People that are interested in, like interested parties within the whole context of it all.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Go on. That's better.
And you'd then need to argue for the group that your group has chosen.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, you could elaborate as much as you wanted and make it, very specific and all that. But, if we had more time, yes. Criteria was a bit difficult, but
you will be assessed on how well you.
Yeah, only because we didn't have too much time to work on that, but we did, know that we'd basically have to use the language within the outcomes, the language within, the context as well. And then, yeah. So, I mean, the first one that we sort of quickly jotted down was effectively express the stakeholders' perspectives on each side.
Okay.
Nice and simple. I thought, we didn't get to discuss it too much, but use arguing techniques or persuasive techniques to do that same thing, to express those or to convey those stakeholders, ideas and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, all right. So how well they express ideas, how well they, what was the other one?
Use persuasive techniques.
Persuasive language, yes. Yeah. You will have taught them what persuasive language is. Anything else?
That was as far as I got with the criteria.
How will they present their ideas as well? So
and how, yes, because aren't they doing this in groups?
Yeah, and They're going to be doing
And how are you going to assess each student in the group?
We were going to have them do like a group presentation representing the
Mhm.
stakeholder group or the people involved.
Okay, so they'd all have a little bit of acting to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was going to kind of make it. And then at the end, we said like to consolidate it all together, we were going to have them state how like the issue that comes up personally affects them and how they feel about it.
So how well they express their personal view.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it might not be completely connected to the outcomes, like per se, but I think you could still mark them on, you know, how well they collaborate, you know, amongst each other as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'd put that in, how well you work with each other.
Yeah, stuff
Yep.
like making sure everyone gets to say their part and how they organize the presentation. And
That's really interesting, and it's really important if you're going to work in groups, because they all have to have a job.
Yeah.
And so the size of groups is important. If you've got not enough jobs, specific jobs for each person, then your group is probably too big. So that's sort of something to think about when you're working with groups. But no, that sounds really good. I'd like the idea that you're attempting a group thing. It's just that it's got its difficulties.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. Okay, excellent. So the last one on stage 4 is the girls in group 5. Is that right?
Yeah, that was us.
Good. So what did you come up with, Pamela?
So we had said to use outcomes 4 and we said to use outcomes 2 and 9.
2 and 9. Okay, so processes and evaluation. Yep. Self-evaluation, evaluation of learning. Yep.
And then reflect and assesses their individual and collaborative skills. So the description of the tasks we had said to do was students are to create a magazine article that showcases their understanding of a particular issue they have studied in the media, internet, TV, or print media. We said students are to choose what type of magazine they're going to write for each appropriate audience. Example, Dolly magazine is projected for young adult, female, teen audiences.
Yep.
And they must accommodate for the graphics behind the magazine cover, colours used in order to contribute to the effect of how the reader is persuaded and moved effectively. Students acknowledge how their opinions must remain neutral and completely unbiased as they project their understanding and research of the issue in order to provide a clear argument that allows audiences to gain explicit insight into the values and effect of the text imposed, allowing readers to create their own opinions and draw meaning.
Okay, you'd have to simplify that right down for stage 4.
Okay, all good. And then the
Now, and the other thing I just was going to ask you, is Dolly magazine still popular with the young kids?
we're not sure, to be honest.
What about boys?
That was just an example.
What do boys read? I don't know.
Boys read sports magazines.
It's more gaming. It's more gaming websites.
It's more Joe Rogan.
I don't think that's boy.
I mean, boys love the games magazines, and they also like sports. But also, don't they do a bit of it online?
It's mostly it's all online for now, pretty much.
Yeah.
Everybody
So
keep
you
it.
might have to do a
magazines.
bit of adaptation for that. You could allow magazines in there, but I think you also have to allow them to do an online thing as well.
Okay, yeah, all good.
Yeah. Okay, but keep going. What's your
Criteria.
criteria? You will be assessed on how well you.
So how will you create a creative and aesthetically pleasing aesthetically appealing article. So just the way it looks. Choose your audience appropriately. So we said, for example, Dolly magazine for like a younger girl, or the Daily Telegraph for an older audience. Remain unbiased and ethical in the research and approach to the article, allowing readers to manifest their own opinion.
Oh, that's that. Yeah. You've got to make these short.
I love reading that. I was like,
be short statements, short, precise statements. So you would have to work a little bit on the length of that, because they're only kids and they're going to get lost in all the words.
yeah.
But the idea is very good.
And then the last point we had was just provide both positive and negatives on the subject issue chosen.
Okay.
Kind of like the one on top.
Yeah, you need to work on the wording of that as well. But a good activity. So that's great. When you're writing these in for your assessment, think really hard about the age of the students and keep it as simple as possible. That first statement, you will be assessed on how well you, gets you out of a lot of words in your points.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying you're going to be assessed on how well you do something, then you don't have to put in a whole lot of descriptors about what well means.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? You can keep it very simple.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's now go to the stage 5 one, which was groups 2 and 4. So who's going to put their hand up to chat about that?
Me? Oh, you can go.
Thank you. Off you go.
Oh, me?
Well, whoever.
Oh, Chris.
Well, you can fight about it for a few minutes and then.
Let's do it, Angela.
All right, okay, I'll go. I'm going to read out our sorry, my computer's just frozen. I'm just going to read out a description of the task and what we planned, and then Elias is going to run through the criteria we split ours up. So we chose outcomes 4, 7, and 8. And
yes, language, yep. Okay, go on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said that you'll be required to write a series of letters from the perspective of a historical figure of your choice in relation to a historical event that we have studied in class. And then they also will be required to write a reflection, talking about how their study of the module has maybe influenced or changed their own perceptions or values.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? We thought maybe we chose the letters because we thought maybe it would apply to the outcomes where, you know, you have to take language and represent it in different ways in different texts. So all taking different perspectives and then representing it in a different way that's kind of imaginative or creative, but has that intertextuality with historical events.
Yeah, that's all right. Just say the task again while I'm looking at the context.
Okay. You'll be required to write a series of letters from the perspective of a historical figure of your choice in relation to a historical event that we've studied in class.
That's interesting. That's yeah. I like the series of letters. You can do lots of interesting things with that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And so...
And then a reflection too.
And the reflection, yep, because they've got to find the material, haven't they, for that? So that's a good idea to have a reflection.
Yeah.
They're not copying it from somewhere.
Yeah.
They'll get up to all sorts of tricks. All right. And then how well you will be assessed on how well you what?
Demonstrate.
Oh, okay. Elias.
Hello. Yep.
Oh, so we ever allowed to see you?
Never. I'm actually in AI. That's why.
Is that because you live in your pajamas or?
No, because I'm a dinosaur and I don't have a laptop.
Okay, so the criteria.
Demonstrate an understanding for the different ways language concepts, ideas, and information can be transformed for new concepts.
Say that again. You'll be assessed on how well you demonstrate
an understanding
for
the different ways language concepts, ideas, and information can be transformed for new concepts.
I try to cut out one of those concepts.
Yeah.
It just sounds a bit
ways,
clumsy.
language,
I
ideas,
see what you're getting at. It just sounds a little bit clumsy, and kids are going to say, "What does that mean, sir?"
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the idea is fine. What's your next one?
Show an awareness of audience.
Yes. How well you show an awareness of audience. Yep. Good.
Yeah. A correct use of spelling and grammar.
How well you use spelling and grammar, or how well you, yeah.
How well you explore and reflect personal values in response to ideas expressed in other texts.
That's fine, but you don't need expressed in other text. You just need to stop
Other
it.
text.
Just make it cut out as many words as you can,
Yep.
as long as it doesn't change the meaning.
No, you can cut that. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Write imaginatively to express any personal or public world.
Any personal or public world.
Yeah. Well, it could. I mean, it was maybe a personal or public world.
What about write imaginatively? Stop.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because if they're writing, then they are talking about personal and public worlds.
Yeah.
Unless you want to see a balance between their personal ideas and that's a reflection on the public world. You'd have to think that one through.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Any more?
Lastly, I just had reflect on the learning process.
Oh, because you've got to get them to do a reflection, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Nice activity. That's good. But you can see how much effort you have to put into working out the criteria
And refine.
Yeah.
and refining it and making sure that it's in line with your outcomes. You had outcome 9 in there, didn't you?
No, we had 4, 7, and 8.
Sorry, 4, 7, 8. Yes.
I actually kind of plagiarized a lot. I just looked at those content points and just reworded some of them into
well,
questions.
that's okay.
Sort of into criteria.
That's why the content points are useful. Not only do they give you ideas for what to do in the classroom, you can use them in assessment. And the other things you can use in assessment are all that stuff from the English textual concepts. Those give you some really useful things too to use for assessment as well.
Yeah, it's a good website.
Yeah. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you. What about the last group 4?
Yep. Alrighty. So, in quite the similar vein in terms of the actual task itself, but first we'll choose the outcomes. So the outcomes we've chosen are 8 and 9.
8 and 9. Yep.
8 and 9. And similarly, we have 2 parts. We have the creative writing part and the reflection part. So the first part with the imaginative text is to write either a diary entry or a general creative writing piece on a migrant story or an Aboriginal story.
Mm-hmm.
So the student can choose whether or not they want to write from a migrant either coming into Australia or experiencing part of it, or an Aboriginal person with disenfranchised, that kind of word, with whatever diary entry they had, and they write a reflection on your text, their approach to coming up with the story, and what inspired them or what kind of reading that they did to write it, and that will be addressed in the criteria below. We had 400 to 600 words for the text and 300 to 400 for the reflection. I'm not sure if that's
probably all right for stage 5.
Right. So
not that many words. I mean, I can put, if I'm handwriting, I put about average sort of handwriting, I put about 300 to 350 words on a A4 page.
I don't know. I guess I've become something.
You're only really asking them for a page or so for each thing.
I don't know.
That's perfectly reasonable. You could ask them for more if you wanted.
All right, going down to the criteria, and Christina and Emily, if you want to just chime in and add a little bit more, whatever, as I go through. So we've split it in half with the creative writing and the reflection part. So the first part is, and I'm just going to try dumb down this language a little bit, assessed on how well you construct and utilize your form.
You will be assessed on how well you construct and
utilize your form of narrative. So obviously, student would be writing a diary entry or just a
What
general
about just construct?
construct.
Why do you need utilize?
Yeah, there you go. Just construct your form of
Construct.
narrative.
Go on.
Yep.
Keep going.
Develop the narrative voice using descriptive language.
Yep.
Structure your punctuation and grammar.
How well you structure
Yes.
punctuation and grammar? That doesn't make sense. What about just use
So
punctuation?
how it was like how well you structured your piece, and then punctuation and grammar was another one.
So yeah, I think we got rid of the middle section. So just
about
use your punctuation.
How well you write your piece grammatically?
Yeah. Okay. We can do that. Yep.
They know what they should know by now what grammatically means, and you'll tell them if they don't. But anyway, something simpler, yeah. But go on.
Yep. So with the reflection part is reflect on the construction of narrative, language, techniques, character, so forth. Second one, refer to wider reading used to inform your creative choices.
Mm-hmm.
And actively and the last point is the same as the last point of the creative writing. So use your punctuation and grammar.
Well, don't put it in twice. You don't need to. You put it in last, and it covers
like an overall.
Yeah.
Like its own section, sort of. Like its own section. So we don't, because like if we're going to put it into, does it have to be like in the marking criteria? It will have like its own block, right?
Or just maybe one at the bottom, I think.
You could have two blocks, but you don't want to make it. You want it simple and you want it short. If you can. So if you can combine things and just put in the grammar thing as a sort of an overall, and just say it once, that's probably better.
Okay.
Yep.
And of course, you've got to remember too that when you set these things, you talk in class about them, and you walk the kids through the criteria, so that you make sure that they understand what each means. Which doesn't mean that you can make it have complicated language in there, but you draw their attention to it. Because if you don't draw their attention to it, their parents will come and draw your attention to it. We live in a world where parents often visit the school and make a fuss if things aren't clear. So that's a good thing to remember. Okay, well that's it, isn't it? That was good. I'm glad we got in that practice on writing those, because they do need some thought. And your assessment task for your final assignment, it might be the most difficult part of it, is to think that through and keep your criteria in line with the outcomes. So I think we'll wind it up there, but if anyone needs to ask me any questions before you go, there's plenty of time left in the session, because it goes on, I've booked the thing for longer. So otherwise, have a lovely day. Have a good week. You'll have some time off next week. If you're having trouble with books for your final assignment, let me know. And we'll work out something. You know that I've put the due date back another week because of all of this interruption. So you actually have another week. It's not whenever it was originally due, you've got another 7 days. And email. Now, next session, which is the week after next, believe it or not, you're going to be doing performance poetry, and you're all going to be performing. So let's hope the breakout rooms work for that one. It'll be on poetry and teaching poetry. And the week after that will be drama, and somehow we're going to do drama online as well. So I don't know how that will work, but we'll see how we go. And in the meantime, please let me know if there's questions and problems, etc. All right. So, cheerio. Does anybody need to stay on and just go through anything or ask any questions? Just put your hand up and I can do that. All right. So bye-bye in that case.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gil.
See you later.
Bye.
Sorry,
Bye.
it's a little bit messy at the start. I'll put the I will put the slides on unit making on Canvas. Okay.
Cool.
And
Thank you.
And if you're emailing me, just email me on the ordinary UTS email, will you? I hate Canvas. And when you email me on Canvas, it all gets muddled up. And the emails between me and one of you don't go into a separate stream. They all get muddled up with emails from other people. It's just extraordinary. I don't know whether it's just me, but that's what happens. So there you go. Anybody needing to ask anything before you disappear? No?
So what's the date for the assessment due? It wasn't the 4th of May.
It's just 1 week after it was originally due. If you have a look online, you're on Canvas, you'll see it there.
Perfect.
I've changed it on Canvas.
No problem.
It's not on the 4th of May. It's due
Instead of the 4th of May, it was May. What are we in? April.
in April.
Yeah, it's sort of like the 10th of May or something.
Yeah,
cool. It's moved down.
Awesome.
down. Yeah.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Have a good week. Stay well. Wash your hands.